Hello and welcome to Open Line. I'm Starlene Stringer. The Irving Convention Center at Las Colinas recently celebrated its first year of operation, and year 2 is already proving to be very busy. On this edition of Open Line, we're going to talk about the impact the new building is having. Now, some of you submitted questions via email, Facebook, and Twitter, and we'll be getting those answered throughout the show. Our guests are Convention and Visitors Bureau Executive Director Mara Gast, Communications Director Diana Pfaff, Convention Center General Manager Tom Meehan, and Food and Beverage Director Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thanks,
well, we have a lot to talk about. I mean, the Convention Center's only been here for a year, but what a busy year. So Mara, let's just start by taking a look back at the first year. How many events did you hold, and what were some of the biggest?
You know, it has been an amazing year, and it's hard to believe it went by so quickly, but we did more than 240 events in our first year. We had more than 128,000 people in the building.
Wow.
And I don't know if you remember this, but the first week we were open, we had a small event on Tuesday for 100 people, the board and city council. Thursday night, 1,000 people for the state of the city, and then 10,000 people over that weekend for Zest Fest, which was definitely one of our largest events. So it has been, we put that puppy through its paces quickly, and Tom and Kevin and the team have just been rocking and rolling since then.
Well, Tom, let's touch on that a little bit more. I mean, the sizes varied so much in some of the actual conventions that were held there. Give us a little more insight into that, like how large, how small, what'd you have?
Oh, you can have anything from very small meetings, 20 people, all the way up to some of these larger shows like Zest Fest with over 10,000. So, depending on the show, they're every size, shape you can imagine.
Wow, and so all this going on, there's so much happening from small to large events. So I want to ask you, Diana, what is the feedback you're actually getting from the clients who have been coming?
Our clients love it. It's a very different facility. It's brand new. It's one of the only new facilities in the country. So it's gotten a lot of attention. From a media standpoint, our first year alone, we reached 44 million people.
Wow.
And if we would have bought the ads that we got in free publicity, it would have been nearly $1 million.
Wow, wow. And something else we're hearing a lot of people talk about is not only the difference in the size of the conventions you're having, but the food. So I want to ask you about that. What have you been hearing from people when they talk about the food, Kevin?
Everybody absolutely raves. Our culinary team is absolutely incredible. We have a executive chef, Eduardo Alvarez, and our sous chef, Lee Taylor, make an amazing team. They really do.
So that's the food everyone's talking about, but I know others are talking about the entire package you get too, including some other people that are in the same business, your colleagues. Mara, you guys have gotten recognition from a lot of different people. Tell us what you're hearing from them.
I think one of the most rewarding things, and we see it really in our percentage of repeat business, and Tom can talk about that, but I mean, our industry, we have had the industry inside the building. We've had our customers in the building as prospects and them bringing their own events in. And really seeing, I mean, once you get inside a building is a building and space is space, but it's everything the team delivers around it that makes the experience here in Irving just something different than it is what they get everywhere else. And every bit of what we've done is to try to make that point of distinction. We're never going to be the biggest building, but we're going to, everybody, Tom, we've got groups that are 20 and groups that are 10,000. And we had President Bush in the building for a very elegant dinner. And everybody, I think, who's been in the building has left feeling special, feeling like this was the safest place they could bring their event. We just got an email from our partners at Andrews Distributing, who they're a partner with us on the business side of what we do. But they've now brought us 3 events, one with their clients, their distributors, and their most tenured and service-oriented employees.
Wow.
They're trusting us with their customers. I don't think there's a higher compliment we can get when our partners trust us with their customers. It's been wonderful. We've gotten awards from Smart Meetings magazine, from HSMAI. The marketing and communications efforts we've done have won international awards. little old Irving, Texas. You know, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
It is a huge big deal. And not only to hear from your colleagues, but then also to know what kind of results you're having, not only in the convention business, but also with hotels too. And I know you recently looked into that and got information on it. What did you find?
We've generated more than 14,000 contracted room nights in this first year. And one of the things that's a great personal joy for me, I know Diana does the same kind of thing, on an event like this past weekend when we had Sci-Fi Expo, the group itself, they didn't contract the rooms, their attendees were buying those on their own, but we can stand outside the building and watch hotel shuttle after hotel shuttle drop off people. I mean, that's how we're making a difference for our hotels, especially on the weekends, which is when they need the business most because those corporate travelers go home on Thursdays and Fridays. So we've really worked very hard to influence the weekend demand and create, through all this activity, new product, new demand.
And it's working, obviously, in 1 year. That's awesome. And Diana, I'm curious to know, are you also monitoring what people are saying online?
Oh, absolutely. We have a very big social media presence, and that's certainly increased. But online, we have it's been very complimentary, extremely complimentary of
what
our
are people saying?
Services, the uniqueness of the building, how nice the building is, how clean it is. The structure of it alone, not being vertical and not horizontal and being stacked, that's very unique for a convention center.
Talk about how easy it is to get around. People talk about the food. You know, it's one of those things that I guess the standard's so low, but we've really made those things a priority. I mean, we want people, you don't want to leave this feeling that, oh, it was one step above hospital, nothing personal hospital, but that has been a priority of the team because it is a place where we can stand out from the competition.
Exactly. And I'm glad we're talking about the questions that you've been seeing people mention on Facebook or the comments they've been making on Facebook and Twitter and all other the social media sites and online. So I want to talk about that because we are getting some questions here from people. And one of the questions we got in was, I want to ask you this question, Tom. It's from one of our Facebook writers, and it's a guy named Julio. And Julio says he wants to know about upcoming events. What else are you going to be having in the near future?
Upcoming events. You can go to our website and look at most of the shows coming up. The one thing that everyone has to remember is we don't post everything on the website. We only post the shows that are open to the public.
I see.
Because a lot of the shows we have are private corporate meetings or private banquets and private functions. So we only post on the website what the public shows are coming up.
Got it. So and that website is irvingconventioncenter.com, and of course that's on the screen too. Now, Maura, is there anything you'd like to add to that for those who are going, what else do you have?
Well, I think that is, I mean, probably about twice a month there is some large-scale event that's open to the public, whether it's a Zest Fest or a Sci-Fi Expo or even the gymnastics tournament we've got coming up, USA Judo events. All of those events, while open to the public, really aren't owned by the convention center. We facilitate making those events happen, so our teams have gone out and solicited and brought those events in, but then it becomes really the business of that event organizer. So they're the ones determining ticket pricing, coverage, advertising schedules, parking deals. All of that becomes part of the deal of that particular event. Our job is to facilitate it, and our job is to make sure the city's investment, candidly, is protected by making sure that we are, I mean, this is a for-profit venture for the city. So, you know, the event business model, if you will, absolutely has to work for the event organizer, but it has to work for us too. So each of those events that comes in is owned by the organizer. We're there to make it happen.
Wonderful. It's a teamwork effort, as you mentioned
Absolutely
before.
it
It's
is.
all about teamwork. We have some more questions, and I want to address this one to you, Maura. This is from Mike. Mike, we received your question. Mike Barnes here in Irving says, there's been a lot of discussion about a convention center hotel. Is this a vital component of a package that meeting planners actually want?
That Mike Barnes is one smart cookie. If I did not know better, I would think he probably worked for the Dallas Convention and Visitors Bureau a number of years ago. Oh, wait, he did. You know, Mike knows very well. Mike worked for the Dallas Convention and Visitors Bureau in a number of years ago, and from the first time he got there, what it took Dallas almost 50 years to get that hotel done. It is a critical part of doing business in our industry, and it is the next piece. Tom and Diana hear it from customers in the media. When is that going to happen? How's that going to happen? The land that's immediately south of the convention center site, we control that full 40-acre site. That site immediately next to the convention center has been set aside for hotel development. The city has issued an RFP. We've got 4 excellent qualified developers that are in the process of submitting additional information. And I think later this spring the city council really wants to make a decision on this. It's something everybody understands. It's necessary. There is business we just can't bid on today. We can't get in the game because we don't have that that minimum point of entry to get into the game. You have to have it these days, and we've got a great hotel package in Irving, but we got to have a full service, full quality hotel immediately next to the convention center. And the goal isn't to fill just that hotel, it's to put some of the business there and then to fill, the rest of the hotels around it to create compression so that more benefit, but we can't maximize that return until that hotel's there.
Makes sense.
I want to add one thing to that.
Do.
As we're selling the building, and we joint venture with the CVB and go out and sell the building, in a lot of our trips, especially down to Austin and association business, one of the main points that comes out of those visits with the associations down there is the fact that their guests don't want to walk, they don't want to shuttle, they want to walk into the convention center. And it's kind of hard sometimes when you see all these hotels around us and we wonder, why do we need another hotel?
Right.
But the number of associations out there that would love to come to Irving and have told me many times, we would love to come there, but we have to have a hotel joined to your building.
Their boards want to be right there. Their event staff wants to be right there. And Tom talks about this. This is the Texas Association of, fill in the blank. There's a professional association for everything, and that's just, the Texas one is one we're counting on because we're going to be in their bid cycle every 3 years, every 5 years. They're going to come to Dallas-Fort Worth, and we want to be in that game. So we're never going to get that piece of the business without the hotel happening. The great thing is we got certainly the CVB board understands that. Certainly the city council and city management understand it, and they have all made it a priority to see what we can do to make that happen.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we have another question, and this one is going to be directed to you, Diana. Okay. It is from a Facebook friend of ours named B. B, we received your question. It says, are you still offering tours?
Absolutely, we're offering tours. We have a few dates when we're going to do a public tour, which is...
the next one, public, will really be an open house. The weekend DART opens the Orange Line, which that'll be Saturday, July 28th. The good news, bad news, we do tours for clients as they're coming in and want to see the building. We don't have a standing, during construction we did the first Friday of every month, we had a construction tour. Now that we're open and we have business in the building, we really can't do a standing tour anymore because we're going to disrupt somebody's business that's going on. So we've got an advantage with the DART Orange Line opening weekend. We have that Saturday. We've got an event on Friday and an event on Sunday, but I think we're open on Saturday, so we'll have an open house on Saturday, and people that are riding the Orange Line for free can come on over and tour the convention center.
Wonderful.
And use that as well.
Sounds good. And outside of that, Maura, let me ask you, for those who are already there doing the business and for those who are considering doing it in the future, how do you go about contacting them, or how do they go about contacting you? How is it done? How do you reach out to potential clients?
We stalk them. Right? I mean, in any way possible. And we stalk them in a whole lot of ways. I mean, wow. We have people that are on the convention center side that are stalking for catering events, for banquets, for graduations, weddings. For things that are short-term, for weddings. We had an 1,100 person wedding in the convention center this summer. We had a 600 person wedding in the convention center. We have the convention center sales staff that's really focusing on things that are short-term, which we consider in less than 12 months they're going to happen. The Convention and Visitor Bureau staff focusing on the more long-term, long-reaching staff. Diana and the communications team pushing the story out there to get the attention of people. We are stalking. That is what we do. We're doing it through social media. We're doing it through traditional sales in a good way, in a positive way. But direct sales and trade shows and dialing for dollars and all the traditional things, but also reaching out. We're hanging out, if you will, lurking in social media in the places where our customers are lurking. And also pushing them to come to our things. And we've hosted probably 15 or 20 industry-related events to get our prospects into the building and see how the building works.
So after that stalking process is over,
then we start courting.
Right. And so now you have
stalk, we court. If there's no court order, we can keep going.
So now you know they're interested. Yeah. Walk me through it. What happens next? Say that I come in with my business deal and I say, I think I'm considering the Irving Convention Center, and then you win me. After all the stalking, I say, yes, I want to work with you. What happens next?
One of the best things about the relationship we have, and this is going to sound way too logical, but we have a convention center and a Convention and Visitors Bureau that are really joined at the hip to make a deal work. And when you go into the facilities we compete with, In order to get all the pieces in the right place, you're probably going to have 4 separate conversations. You're going to talk to the Convention Visitor Bureau over here about getting your hotel. You're going to talk to the convention center operator about the space you need. You're going to talk to probably a separate catering company about your catering needs. You're going to talk to a separate vendor about your parking needs. And everything's going to be a negotiation that's only in that entity's interest. When we're dealing with a client, we're all sitting at the table and looking at the package. What does it mean to the community, big picture, in terms of room nights, visitors? What does it mean to the building in terms of the revenue it can generate versus the stress on the building to produce the event? Can we come out of this thing whole? And for the things where it's kind of a push on the building itself, but the return on the room nights is so significant, and it's in July or August and we got to get it, or the return on exposure, then we value those things. But we look at everything as its own deal, and we can look at things holistically. And I know that sounds ridiculously logical, but that is unusual in our business. And when we can sit down with a conversation with a customer and say, no, we're going to talk about all of it right now. We understand you don't have a budget for space rental, but you do have a really good food and beverage budget, and you don't mind if your attendees pay for parking. We can make that deal work. You know, because we're having one conversation. They're not having to go make a deal here, make a deal here, make a deal here, make a deal here. We're all together and we're all on their team because we want it to work.
Makes sense, it does.
I'll tell you, the other resource we throw into that mix, which most of our peers don't, we provide a marketing communications team to support them. Some of them use it, some of them don't, but that's not an offer they get in many places. So, especially for consumer events, but those things are good for Irving. The Zest Fest, the Comic Cons, all those things, they bring lots of people from in the area and out of the area, but if we didn't have them in town that day, we wouldn't have them spending that day.
I see. And you know, I have a question for you, Tom. What is SMG's role in this process?
In this process, you know, everything we do is together, and when we talk about working together, you know, all of our offices are intermingled together. So on the sales side, anytime anybody from either side has a question, and if you ever spend time in our hallway, there's people coming and going. They're going in one office and into the other and into the other. We constantly communicate with each other. We take those pieces of business. We all sit down and we talk about what are the factors that are going to affect this. What is it going to cost us to produce? What is their budget? What is their, you know, food and beverage? The same thing she was saying. And we together come up with a package that we all agree on and could go back to that client with and present to them to say, hey, this is how we can make it work using all those different dynamics. So it's truly been a great relationship to be there. It speeds up the process. The client doesn't have to wait for answers. Literally, they can be put on hold and somebody could shout down the hallway and have an answer in a few seconds. And that does happen a lot down there. They don't spend time down there on our floor the way we do.
Try to avoid that floor.
I made that note the other day. Our floor is very, very loud and very busy, and you go up to the second floor and it's very quiet. So,
well, let's talk about food a little bit when we talk about this whole process and what goes on, Kevin. I'm curious to know, when people are considering the facility, how important is the quality of food and really the variety of food options?
The quality and the variety are everything. We're known for our food there. We're known for our service there. If we had the same food quality as everybody else, they would go somewhere else. We want them to come back to us. You know, so we strive to do the very best we can to be cutting edge. Our executive chef and our sous chef have their knowledge and their experience is just immense, it's extremely vast, and they bring just such a wealth of knowledge that they can really reach out to everybody. We can literally do anything we need to.
And Kevin, he talks about a wealth of knowledge.
Sure.
Talented trained chefs are talented trained chefs, and they know a lot of things. One of the great things I think about our team there is their ability to listen to a client who wants, you know, steak and lobster, but doesn't have a budget that allows it. And when you understand that what the client's trying to achieve, and you have a food and beverage team and a chef who's willing to listen to the client and say, you know what, your budget isn't going to get you there, but here's what we can do that leaves your guests feeling as though they did have that. Let us do, you know, a medallion of beef instead of a fillet. Let us do this instead of that. And the presentation and the grace with which he does those things. And the team sits down and says, well, here's how we can get that feeling. And everybody leaves feeling really, really good. And that is part of it. And Tom, what's our repeat business number we're at?
Our repeat business is between 25 and 30%. So of that 240 events in the first 8.25, that's 25 to 30% is repeat business.
Wow.
And you know, we have our menus out there and they're published and they're priced out. But if you had to look at how many of those events we actually customized, you're probably 60% of them we have
they're
customized.
kind of a starter kit, if you will, because everybody comes in and wants something different. We try really hard to get our customers to say, if you would just tell us up front
what you have to work with,
and let us go to work figuring out for you, it'll save everybody a lot of time, because we are like a quality hotel in terms of our pricing, in terms of our menus.
Well, you know,
that's
I'm
what we're
glad
competing
you
with
brought up
for the most part.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up pricing, and not just for the people that are coming in with the conventions, but for those who are actually wanting to attend. Sometimes you get questions about what's the difference in pricing, or why is there a different price for admission and a different price for parking? Why is that?
And it all comes down to the deal of that particular piece of business, and it comes down to the deal for the building. You know, in some cases we've got event organizers that the deal structure they don't want their clients to pay for parking, but they're willing to give the center in the deal $1 or $2 or $3 or $5 off the admission ticket. Well, then and it comes back to that, being able to look at the value of a business as a whole. As long as we can be made whole, that's how it works. But if a client doesn't want to charge, doesn't want to give us a piece of the ticket, we still have overhead associated with parking. We still have a parking garage we got to pay for. So all of those things come into play, but ultimately it's up to the event organizer to decide how they want the event. Do they want their attendees to pay for parking? Or you know, some of the corporations definitely don't. So the corporate users will buy out the garage, and as long as they're the only user in the building that day, that's a very easy thing for us to do.
Sure.
When we've got 3 or 4 different events going on simultaneously, like we have often, sometimes it makes better sense for us to just say, look, it's going to be a whole lot easier if we just give everybody the same parking deal, because it's a lot easier on our staff to manage. So those are the variables that come into it. Every single one of them is different. Every admission price is different, because every event organizer has their own business model that they're trying to follow.
There really is a lot to consider to get it done and get it perfected the way that you've been able to do and
that's what
over the past
they're
year.
not the convention centers and events. They're not the bureaus events. You know, ZestFest belongs to ZestFest. Comic-Con belongs to Comic-Con. The North Texas Gun Club belongs to North Texas Gun Club.
And knowing that planning has to go into process, I'm curious to know, Diana, how far in advance do people need to start planning? How do you plan out these events? What would you say? They start out a year in advance, 6 months? What does it take?
It varies. It varies. Yes, weeks. Yeah, it varies. I think Tom can speak to that better, but it varies.
Yeah, I think some of the events, almost as ZestFest starts its new talks, you know, within 2 or 3 months after he finishes his show. There's some events that have just a million details to them. And she talked about the deal we make. We look at the revenue sources. We look at the costs of doing business. We look at what their budget is. And some of these contracts get very detailed out on all these costs and how things are going to happen. So, you know, it's some of these shows are very complicated. Some are very easy. The complicated ones we work on almost year-round. I expect a call from Greg probably next week. And we're just finishing settling out his show from here in January. So
we did a very high-profile event for Omni Hotels in September, a corporate event for them, that ended up being bumped out of one of their hotels to us because they had to change dates, and their hotel that they were going to put it was full, and they couldn't take it on the new dates. 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks for that thing to happen. It was a very complex event. Relatively small number of people, but it was done in 2 or 3 weeks. We've got people walking into the building on a daily basis going, I have an event, I have a date, can somebody help me? I mean, that happens, right? And we try very hard. Hopefully we have a date.
we get an awful lot of phone calls right now of business that is 2 and 3 weeks out. Even Andrew's tenure award, they forgot they were even having the banquet and called and said, hey, can you handle this event in 3 weeks? Yeah, let's get it done.
And you do an amazing job of getting that done, especially when it comes to the food, too. We keep talking about that, Kevin, because it's delicious and people are raving about it. So tell me about some of the best things your culinary teams actually created.
Our chef has an amazing, it's a braised short rib, just melts in your mouth. The stuffed chicken with the risotto and the prosciutto, it's absolutely to die for. Absolutely.
Making me hungry.
The little waffle cones.
We have, little crispy cones that have about 7 or 8 different flavors.
Okay, you're making us all very, very hungry now, so we better change the topic a little bit.
The salmon salad with the
Thai
edamame.
salmon salad.
Ooh, edamame sounds really good right now.
Truffled
Definitely.
mac and cheese.
Truffled mac and cheese.
Truffled
The queso blanco nachos.
There's a lot
I think
of
she's
them.
tried a few of the items on the menu. Well, you know, let me switch subjects a little bit because we're all getting hungry now. How's the push for LEED certification going?
It is going. We are going to get there. The most recent pushback, and we've filed all our documentation. One of the most recent pushbacks we got from the certifying agency was part of one of the things we get points for is being adjacent to mass transit. The line isn't open yet. Therefore, should we get those points? Well, clearly it's coming. If you show them the picture of DART, it is coming. So we've had to go back and verify those things. We've had to go back and prove to them some things on the water treatment system and prove that Lake Carolyn exists and that we're getting water from there. So we're going through those things. We will get there.
And something else that's very important too is how the building was actually set up. And Diana, could you remind us about some of the green features in the building?
The copper exterior is one of the features, which not only helps with the temperature on the inside, but it's also it's not treated. So it's not, help me with this.
Chemically.
Yes,
We don't
chemically
use
treated.
chemicals
Thank
to
you.
make it.
Yes, absolutely. And the water that Mara mentioned, the water that comes in.
We say it's 90 million gallons of water. No, right?
Right.
90 million gallons of water a year that we can save, and we use the water from Lake Carolyn for the toilets, for the air conditioning system, for the stuff that people don't have to touch or drink.
Wow. And you know, you kind of touched on the public transportation and it not being available yet. So Diana, I want to ask you, the DART Orange Line is making its way to the convention center.
Yes.
What do you think the impact will actually be?
Oh, I think the impact's going to be huge. I think it's going to be huge for people both coming into and going back out of. And when it connects down to the airport in a couple of years, it's gonna make it that much.
What would you like to add to that, Nora?
The Irving Convention Center station on the DART Orange Line is 20 minutes from DFW Airport and 20 minutes from Love Field. And there's no place in Dallas-Fort Worth that can make that claim.
Right.
I mean, that is just, both of those airports are so vitally important to us, and that station is just, it's a block's walk. It's going to be
very
great. They open
convenient.
this summer.
Very convenient.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Well, you know, we have to go back to the topic that we've all enjoyed talking about tonight. That's food. So, Kevin, talk about how you've really worked on the differences of the size of the proportions, because we've talked about some of the conventions being small, some of them being very large. How does that work for you in the food department? I mean, you're having to really make a lot of changes there.
Yes, ma'am. Our event manager and our catering sales manager, they work closely with the clients. They want to make sure that the client gets exactly what they bargained for, real value for their money. Okay. You know, that's part of our repeat business. So they have to learn about the client, learn about their guest, and learn about the company that they come from. And therefore, once they do that, then we can go ahead and focus on exactly what the guest needs. If we know we have a group of men, for instance, Andrews, 600 men, we fed them in 20 minutes, but we know exactly what they want. Wow. You know, there may be another group that's a little different. They have to slow things down. So we focus on that, and then we figure out kind of where they need to go, and we fine tune to their needs.
So it goes back into you guys all working together as a team, really finding out what the client wants and then making it happen together. Exactly. Mara, I want to ask you a quick question. Your work is really not limited to the convention center, so can you give us the broad view? What's the mission of the Convention and Visitors Bureau?
Other people's money. That's what we're all about. And that's it. That it is about bringing visitors into our communities, treating them well, taking really good care of them, and capturing every possible discretionary dollar out of their wallet that we can, and and sending them home happy and satisfied and hoping they come back. And the advantage of that is obviously we get visitors here, that's a wonderful thing, but those visitors pay all the taxes that we all pay as residents, but they don't need any of the city services that those taxes otherwise pay for. You know, if they're staying at a hotel, the hotel's already paying for water and sewer and police and schools and all those kinds of things. So when a visitor comes here, hopefully they never need our jail, they never need our hospital, they never need any of those things, but they come in, they have a great time, they pay those taxes. And the value of that's more than $400 to every Irving household. If we suck the visitors out of the equation and their spending, in order for the city to maintain the same level of services that its tax base produces today, every household in Irving has to spend over $400 more to make up for that gap.
So welcome those guests.
Other people's money, OPM, other people's money, other people's money.
I'm going to be saying that. That's my thing now. OPM. Thank you so much. Yeah, and what were you going to add?
I was just going to say, and there's a way everybody in the community can help that, whether you have an event that can fit into the convention center, you want to bring your class reunion, your military reunion, your harmonica society, whatever it is to Irving. I hope that you'll reach out and talk to us at the Convention and Visitors Bureau and let us figure out a way to bring your friends' money into our community and make the city a better place.
Love it. Thank y'all so much for being here. We are out of time, and I'd like to thank you for watching. I'm Starlene Stringer. Please be sure to join us on Wednesday, March 14th at 7 p.m. for our next edition of Open Line. We'll be talking about the city's water restrictions. Now, if you have questions, you can email them to ictn@cityofirving.org or connect with us on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll get answers for you on our next edition of Open Line. We'll see you then.